Hello friends, and welcome back to Mothership. Today I'm going to show you how to make another one of my favorite venison, snack stick, beef jerky, whatever you want to call it, recipes. Today we're going with the Asian 5-spice deer jerky. Sound good? Let's get started. Now, just like all of our jerky guys, the first thing we want to do is get together all of our ingredients. Like most of my ground jerkies, guys, I try to use as little liquid as possible. That just makes it easier for it to dry out. The more liquid you put in, the more it's got to come out on that either your dehydrator or your smoker. So in this recipe, I'm not going to add any extra liquid. Now, if you wanted to, you could add in some soy sauce. Just make sure that you calculate how much salt you're going to be using in soy sauce and subtract that from the amount of salt you're going to add in. So you could do that. That'll add a little bit more of that Asian flavor to it. But for now, we are just going to get together only dry ingredients. Now, like all of our sausage making, we're going to do everything by weight. First thing that we want to do is get an accurate weight on our venison. In this case, I have about 2.5 pounds, and to be specific, I have 1109 grams. The first ingredient on here is going to be salt, and I do about 1.75% of my total weight in salt, which in my case right now is about 19 or 20 grams. Just make sure that you measure it so you don't go over salty. You could absolutely go up to 2% if you like a little saltier, or go down to 1.5 if you like a little bit less. This is what I've determined is the spot that I like my saltiness of my jerky. Also keep in mind, if you're going to be using pink salt, which I am, that's going to add some salinity as well. So keep that in mind. If you're adding about 1/4% of your weight in salt, that's also going to add to your salinity, which bumps up the total salt to about 2%, which is kind of my target. Speaking of pink salt, about 1/2 teaspoon is what we're looking for, or something like maybe 3 or 4 grams. Now these two are basically the base of all of my jerkies. Now it's time to get the rest of the ingredients that make this the flavor profile that it is. I'm going to start with some white sugar. This is about 2 teaspoons or 11 grams. Some paprika, which is about 2 teaspoons or 6 grams. 2 teaspoons of cumin, which is about 5.5 grams. About 1/2 teaspoon of chili powder, which is about 2 grams. Now, if you want it spicier, absolutely add more. This is just a good flavor profile for me. If you want it super spicy, feel free to add as much as you want. 2 teaspoons of black pepper, which comes out to about 6.5. 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, which of course I didn't pour it out, comes out to about 6 or 7 grams. And last but certainly not least is the star of the show, the Asian 5-spice. I'm going to go 2 teaspoons of this, which is about 5 grams. I just want to get this kind of mixed together. I'm going to do a lot of mixing, obviously, when it goes into the meat, but get it started. Now what I have here are about 2.5 pounds of ground venison. These are from a deer that I harvested last year, then I promptly ground up and vacuum sealed. Now obviously I didn't do a good job because I tried to keep them in 1 pound increments, but one of them was 1.5 pounds. If you don't have access to venison and you want to use beef, just make sure that you do something very lean. We're looking for super lean. That's why venison's so good for jerky, because it's lean. All that fat is not going to be great when you're actually trying to get the consistency that you're looking for. But pretty simply, guys, we just want to mix this all together. So start mixing it up, add in some more. Just try and get everything distributed. And then once you have all of your mixture in there, it's time to just go ham. I do know a lot of folks use their KitchenAid with a paddle mixer, and that seems to do a pretty good job for this. If you have a sausage, ingredient mixer, that'll do it as well. But for these smaller batches, just getting out some gloves or just putting your hands in seems to work just fine. I really should give the KitchenAid option a try. I really don't ever do that. Now, once everything has been completely mixed together, what we're going to do is just let it sit. Now, we do have pink salt in here, so we want it to start to cure before we actually get it into whatever we plan on doing, which in our case is a smoker, but if you want to use a dehydrator. So you can let this sit for a couple hours. I've done like 4 hours, and that's been fine. Or overnight, which is most likely what I'm going to do, just based on my schedule for today. So get it all nice and mixed together. Cover it up, throw it into the fridge, come back when we're actually ready to put it into our jerky gun, get into the strips we want, and throw it onto the smoker. But it smells really good, guys. This is going to be absolutely delicious when it's done. 24 hours later, and it is officially ready to go. This had a nice long time to cure completely in the fridge overnight. So all I'm going to do is get the jerky into my jerky gun. I've mentioned on this channel before, it's not necessary to have one of these to make ground jerky. It certainly does make life a lot easier, but you could just put your meat onto a cutting board, put another cutting board on top of it. That would flatten it out, and then just cut them into strips. That's kind of the old standard, but this cocking gun style makes life real easy. I just wish it was bigger so I didn't have to keep reloading it. But basically, just fill up the tube and squirt it out. I end up using this tubular attachment most now because I kind of like the texture it gives me versus the strips. I feel like sometimes those can get a little bit too dry. But I'm just going to fill this up, and we'll get it onto the racks. Now the trick with these is to make sure you have a little bit of space between them so that all sides can get the good smoky flavor that we're looking for. So I tend to do these spaced with each of those little squares, one between each row. And as I'm doing this, I'm going to get my smoker up to temp. I'm going to run it at 180 degrees until the internal on these is about 160, 165. But to be honest, I'm not really looking for temperature. I'm looking more for consistency. Since these are fully cured, they are safe to eat at really some lower temps. We're just looking to get all that moisture out of here. Since we didn't add any extra moisture to these, shouldn't be too bad. It should be pretty quick. And by quick, I mean, you might be looking at like 4 hours, something like that. Perfect. I'm running out of rack space, so unfortunately I had to start making them come together a little bit closer. But hopefully that won't impact it too much. It'll just mean that not as much smoke can get up around the sides. But I think it'll be okay. Now I'm going to get my smoker up and running at 180 degrees. We are just about 4 hours in. I think these are ready to go. Temperature is probably between 160, 175 all throughout. And I think they're probably good. The consistency is what I'm looking for. What I want to do now is take them inside, let them come up to room temperature because no one likes warm jerky. And then we'll give them a taste test and just see how we did. Before we get started, guys, I have to tell you, I cannot get over the smell when I'm using this Chinese 5-spice. Everything just smells so good in the house. I brought these in from the smoker, let them sit on the counter, and the smell is so good. These are ready to go. They've been sitting out long enough to get to room temperature. They smell fantastic. This is what we're working with. It's a perfectly dehydrated hunk of meat. This is what you're looking for. You're looking for it to break like that. You don't want it to bend. This means it's nice and dehydrated. Again, smells really good. And I can tell this is going to be such a good flavor on here. But most importantly, it's time to give the old-fashioned chomp and see how we did. This is exactly what I wanted it to be, guys. These Asian 5-spice is not like your teriyaki style or your soy style. It's got a very specific flavor. And once you try it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's super, super good. These are not that difficult to make, guys. Just add a bunch of dried ingredients to your ground meat. And on the other side, you're going to have something really, really unique and really flavorful. I've never actually seen anyone use Asian 5-spice either in a beef jerky or in a deer jerky recipe. And I gotta tell you, it's really, really good. You guys should give this a try. It's unique, it's super flavorful, and it's gonna be a hit at your hunting camp. I make a ton of beef jerky and deer jerky throughout the year, guys. These are a good snack for after the gym or when you get home from work, or if you're just out and about. I love jerky, I love venison. I always have tons of venison, so why not just turn it into something delicious that you can snack on with friends, especially when you're having a beer. Now, what I want to hear from you guys is, what is your favorite jerky recipe? Let me know down below. If there's something I need to try out, I'd love to give it a go. See what you guys are making out there. I'm sure you guys have some really good recipes. Now, for the YouTube stuff, you know the game. Like, comment, subscribe. That makes me feel super duper warm and fuzzy on the inside. It's getting warm out, guys. I got a ton of new cooks coming out. I'm ready to share them with you guys. But most importantly, get out there and cook some absolutely fantastic, or go ahead and jerky meat. I don't care. As always, I will see you guys on the next UFO barbecue. Bye-bye.